we're going to do it. So my name's Kenny. I'm from Kenny Does Drywall. No, we're not doing does. Drywall with Kenny. Drywall with Kenny. Anyway, let's try and get down to it. We're going to do our first drywall finishing YouTube series. And the main goal here is for us to teach the DIYers at home the best, most efficient way with tips, tricks, and techniques that I've learned over the course of my career. I've been doing this for 30 plus years. And I think by this time I've found out what works and what doesn't work. So my job here is to teach you the simplistic ways to achieve a flat and smooth wall or ceiling in your home. Okay. Maybe you're a DIYer. Maybe you just bought your first home. Maybe you can't find somebody in your neighborhood that can do drywall finishing. I want to teach you the how and the why. The why is very important. We could show you how all day long, but once you know why, it makes more sense, right? The more you know, the more you learn, the more it makes sense. I know for me, when somebody explains something to me, I can say, oh, that makes sense. So that's going to be my job here. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've figured out what works for me. I still work on a job every single day. So I'm out there in the field. And I just also want to point out that I'm not here to say that any of the other videos that are out there are better, worse, show you more, show you less. I'm just here to show you what works for me and how I can make it simple for you to work in your own home, right? So I think with that being said, we're going to put the coffee down because now it's time to work. Let's go through the sets of tools that you need, right? Again, this is going to be something that's going to be directed towards the DIYer, someone who has never attempted to finish taping before ever. Eventually, we're going to get into some advanced, some series of advanced taping, different techniques that's going to show us. That's going to be more for someone who has been doing it for a little bit of longer time. And that'll come down the line. So for now, what we're going to introduce is the tools that we use, right? We have a 6-inch knife. We have an 8-inch knife. We have a 10-inch knife. And we have a 12-inch knife, okay? Those are the knives that we're going to use. Altogether, what I'm going to show you today is really, we're going to put the 12-inch knife away. We're going to put the 8-inch knife away. We're going to use the 6-inch knife and the 10-inch knife. And we also have a hawk, all right? Now, I use a hawk because that's how I was trained. I've always used a hawk. A lot of folks use a pan, right? Pan's perfectly fine. The difference is that you hold a hawk like this and you hold a pan like this, all right? Now, the comfort of the handles on these knives are going to be important because if you start getting into this and you're doing in multiple rooms, you're going to want the tools to feel really comfortable in your hands. The handles are going to make a big difference. There are tools out there that have big, bulky handles. Not to say that they're not good. You can use those too. What's your comfort level? They all will do the job and they all will make it work. These are the ones that I've found for me that help my hands and make it easier for me. Now, here's a little tidbit that I could share with you guys. This is called the hawk. The reason it's called the hawk, this is going to make sense once I explain it to you, okay? You ever see any of the folks out there that train actual hawks, the bird? How do they hold it when it flies? Like this, right? Like this. You put the hawk in your hand. The hawk would fly and land on your arm. That's why they call it a hawk. A little bit of history. Anyway, so we have a 6-inch or 8-inch or 10-inch or 12-inch knives, our hawk. And the other component, and what we're going to be explaining today is, this is the first coat. We're going to be doing the first coat. I'm going to be explaining the steps of the first coat, which will require paper tape, okay? Let's get a nice fresh cut here, just to show you guys there is a front and the back to the tape. A lot of people don't know that, okay? There is a crease that will fold. The crease always goes to the drywall, right? This tape is also spark perforated, right? So when it's made and it's run through, it's hit with sparks. If you hold it up to the light, you can really see it. It's hard to see to the naked eye, but that's what allows the moisture and the water content in the compound to absorb through the tape, right? So that'll pull that right out. This helps us when we're doing inside and outside corners, right? We're going to fold it, and that's how we'll set our corners in here, but we're going to get to that, right? I'm just going to focus on the first coat. We're not doing pre-filling. Pre-filling is a whole nother ball game, different material. I sheetrock this myself, so I think it's a pretty good sheetrock job. So we're not going to have to do any pre-filling. We're just going to concentrate on doing the first coat today, okay? And the components that we're going to be taping are the flat seams, the cross butts, the corners, or in the trade we call these caps, and then the inside corners, the screws or fasteners, corner bead, metal corner bead. There's tape on corner bead, there's mud on corner bead, there's different types, but for this particular application, we decided to use the metal. It's nailed on, and we'll eventually fill that in and float it in. So our goal for you guys is to have you achieve a smooth, flat wall, right? The manufacturers, they always recommend 3 coats. I always do 3 coats. Can you get away with 2 coats? Absolutely, you can. Can you use mesh tape? Absolutely, you can. You can do it in closets. You could do it behind counters, cabinets, excuse me. You could do it in places that you don't see, okay? But if you want a smooth, flat finish on your drywalls, and you're going to see it, you're going to sit there and look at it every day, you don't want to see where the seams are. You don't want to see the imperfections. You want to make it nice and smooth and flat. So that's our goal today. We're going to show you how to get there step by step by step, okay? So with that being said, let's move over to our compound. Are all compounds made the same? They're similar. It's kind of like a menu when you go to a restaurant, right? There's different things. You choose different things, right? There's different types of compounds. Each one is designed to do a specific thing. There's easy sand compounds. There's compounds that set fast. There's compounds that don't set fast, right? My job here is to show you guys which ones that I use on a day-to-day basis that's going to help you achieve the success that you're looking for with your walls. My recommendation is going to be this. You should always start with a couple of empty buckets, okay? And the reason being is that compound, the different applications, depending on the process that you're doing, requires different consistencies in the compounds. The compound is a water-based product, okay? It's made to shrink. Now, the more water you add to that compound, the more it's going to shrink. So when we're putting tape into our flat seams, our corners, and our caps, we actually want that tape to shrink in a little bit. When we're doing our fasteners or our screws and our corner bead, that's a little bit of a heavier application. We don't want it to shrink as much. So that's going to be less water that we put into that material, right? And if you notice, I don't say mud a lot. I'm not a fan of mud. I'm an old school taper. We kind of stay away from mud. Not to say that it's right or wrong. I just don't like that term mud. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. I like to call it compound. So it's cheaper to actually go and purchase a couple of empty buckets. So maybe you can get them on Marketplace. Maybe your buddy's got a couple empty buckets. Have them. Make sure they're clean. Or you can go buy it at your local, hardware store, get a couple of buckets, because it's a lot cheaper to use the buckets, the empty buckets, fill them with the compound that you need for your consistency than to actually buy multiple cans of compound. because, you know, everything's expensive. We're trying to be efficient here, and we want to make sure that we're trying to save a buck where we can here and there. So I always recommend having two buckets, okay? And these are buckets that I've already started, right? And what these are going to be labeled for is, one's going to be a heavier mixture, one's going to be a looser mixture. The looser mixture we're going to use for setting our tape. The heavier mixture we're going to use for our fasteners and corner beads, okay? Now, you may say, oh my goodness, what do I buy? What do I do? For this application, because you're doing this for the first time, I think that any compound that you pick up in your local store is going to be efficient. So I just want to I have a fresh bucket here. I just want to show you, if it's your first time, how you open these. It's pretty simple. You just give it a pop with your knife. If you use a razor knife or anything, and then you're going to pull this tab. You see this tab? What I'd like to do is I wrap it around my hand, and then I pull it, give it a couple of yanks, and that tab's going to come right off. That's going to allow us to open up the compound bucket. It takes a little bit of pressure to get it off. It's always got a piece of plastic on the top to keep the moisture in. You disregard that, discard that, throw it away. That's a fresh bucket of compound. Every fresh bucket of compound needs to be mixed, okay? I just want to show you something with my knife. If you try and take this compound out of this bucket, it's very, very difficult to get it even out, right? We want to mix that first. And the way we mix that is with our trusty drill and our paddle. But bear with me 1 second. This just came to mind here. I'm going behind the scenes. So back in the day when I first started, way back when, that's what we mixed with. It's a giant potato masher, right? Could you imagine trying to get that in there now and mix these buckets? My goodness, if you want a good workout, I recommend a potato masher. But if you want the easy way out, let's go with the drill, okay? Typical paddle. As you can see, there's a lot of wear and tear on this paddle. I use this every day. What we're going to do is we're going to want to just set it in there. And for right now, we will not add any water. We want to just use what's in here, the way it was made, and we're going to give it a spin. I want you to put both feet on the sides of the buckets, because she's going to want the torque on this is going to want to give it a little bit of a spin. The last thing we need you to do is rip the cord out of the wall, have this spin around. Next thing you know, we don't have a drill, and now we got to mix with the masher. I could tell you a good story of one of my workers that had that happen. Well, the bit came out and it kind of spun around. It was compound everywhere, and we weren't getting paid for a stucco job. So it was a lot of work to clean up the mess, aside the fact that it got dangerous and he almost broke his wrist. But, so keep both feet on the side of the bucket and mitts. I want you to go up and down. Do not hold the mixer out of the bucket. To go up and down. I like that. Look at that. We take that out. We got our paddle, mixer, what have you. We'll give a couple little, clean it up. I always have a bucket of water handy. I recommend that. You drop it right back in the bucket of water. There's a little invention I made years and years ago. I poke a little hole in the top of throw it on the top, keep my water right in there. I got my cleaning brush right in there. It's just something I invented. Very simple. Compound is water-based, which is great. Get it on your clothes, it comes off. Get it on the floor, it comes off. So don't be afraid to, we want to stay as clean as we possibly can. We don't want to make a mess, but don't be afraid if you do get it on the floor, because it will come up. It will come off your clothes. So with that being said, we have our buckets. We have our freshly purchased bucket. So now we're gonna divide this a little bit. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make one of the buckets slightly looser for our first coat to embed our tape. The second bucket, we're gonna keep a little thicker, and that's what we're gonna use for our corner beads and our screws. Again, Hawk 6-inch knife. I also want to spend a little bit of time on this because I think it's really important. Holding your knife, and that goes for all of the knives, whatever size it is. This is how I recommend holding your knife. You're going to hold it with one finger up top. This is going to give you more control of your knife. Whether it be this way, let's go on the wall a second. Okay, I can move my finger to here to put more pressure here, and I can move my finger here to put more pressure here. I could lift and I could bring down. I could bring my hand down, keep my finger here, or go up and keep my finger here. If you hold your knife like this, you have no control on doing any of that stuff, okay? It's going to make your job a lot harder. So my recommendation is to keep your finger up here, okay? It's going to be really important. And I'm always going to bring this up. When we just show you a lot of angles, knife angles on these things, when we're doing specific coats, applications, I'm going to be moving my hand down, moving my hand up, moving my finger left, left, right, right, left, right. And that's going to help you really understand where your pressures on your knife is going to go. So this happens by repetition, right? Don't think that you're going to just bust out these tools and you're going to get out there and you're going to be able to tape and finish like a pro. It's going to take multiple times. You're going to have to practice. It's like anything else. You ride a bike, you don't ride forever or first time. You got to learn. But if you understand why you're doing things a specific way, that's going to help you in the long run, because you're going to know, oh, this is why I do it. This is why I add the water. This is why it needs to be heavier compound. This is why I hold my knife this way. So I'm going to emphasize that a lot moving forward into all of the different coats that we go through: the first coat, the second coat, the third coat, right? Angles on your knives, how you hold your knife, keeping your tools clean is really important. You're going to notice that anytime you get anything that starts to dry up, compound, as soon as it hits the air, it starts to dry. If you get those dried pieces that are in your finished product, you're going to be fighting the wall all the time. You're going to be picking the stuff out. We don't want that. We want you to stay clean. So have that mentality of being clean. You keep your buckets clean. You keep your tools clean. Don't worry about yourself because you're going to get dirty. The floor, we can clean it up, right? So what we're going to do is with the freshly opened bucket, we're going to create a looser bucket and a heavier bucket of compound, right? I'm going to take a little bit. And we're going to scoop it in. Like I said earlier, I've already had these buckets started, and there's just a continuous buckets that I bring to the job sites with me. One's a rough coat, one's a second coat. I use also the rough coat for a polish coat. Those are kind of like the trade names for the coats, right? It's rough coat, second coat, polish coat. In other words, first coat, second coat, third coat. So we're going to get this started. Remember, one's going to be a little bit looser for a paper tape application. and one's going to be a little heavier. I think that should do it for right now. We're not taping a whole house. Another thing I recommend, you always want to keep the sides of your buckets clean, because anything inside the bucket, on top of the bucket, dries up, falls in there, and you don't want to waste a bucket of compound. It's expensive, right? We want to try and be as efficient as we possibly can here. So again, the reason why I showed you how to hold your knife this way, you can really be much more versatile with your knife if you hold it this way. Because you can't get in here with your knife like this. You want to get in here with your knife like this and clean that bucket. Get that nice and clean. Right? You could take it a step further. If you're not going to be using the bucket for a little bit of time, like I said, you always have a pail of water around handy, a little scrub brush. I've had this thing forever. Give it a quick clean. Right? Clean it up. I don't know. My whole life, the compound buckets, the insides were white. Just recently, they went to the black insides. Not sure why. We'll have to ask the manufacturers why they did that. Maybe it's to show us that we're being messy, that there's compound on the sides. I'm not sure, but it's easier to see the compound on the black inside. Okay. So we're going to clean that up because we're not going to use this bucket right now. Now, I'm sure some people are just like, hey, you just said the more water you put in it, the more it's going to shrink, the more it's going to crack, right? You don't want that much water in it. So if you get a little extra water in there, into your pail, you just pour that water out. That's it. Put a lid on it. You don't have to slam it closed. Just lay the lid on it. I like my Hawk for that reason too. It acts as a cover. There's a lot of different reasons I use a Hawk. Earlier I said that I was broken in. I learned how to tape with a Hawk, but it does come in handy when you're using it as almost another hand when you're putting your tape on. So we have our first coat, which is going to be looser bucket. We have our second coat, which is going to be a heavier bucket. And now we go back to the drill again, and we're going to mix these. So my recommendation is don't dump a whole lot of water into the buckets right away. It's going to take a trial and error for you to really understand what you can handle on your Hawk and your knife and the consistency. But that comes with time. I don't expect you to know the consistency your first day out, second day out, third day out. It's going to come over time. I'm giving you the guidelines that are going to make you successful. Don't put too much water in it. You could always add water. Once it's in there and mixed, you can't take it out. So we're going to go to our looser bucket, get that ready. Also, it's in my little bag of tricks here. Now I always keep a bucket of water. I just got a little cup. I add a little bit, very little. And that's going to be my looser bucket. And we're going to go through the same process like I showed you, mixing a full bucket. I know it sounds monotonous, but this is going to set you up for success. Again, we want to get that water. The drill bit is going to suck it, everything down to the bottom. It's your job to bring it back up. You want to make sure that water's thoroughly mixed in there. I also would like to add, if you do find yourself in a predicament where you added too much water, again, not having a full bucket of compound where you can add and subtract is helpful, because let's just check this. okay, or loose bucket. I want to check this. You know, for a first timer, it might be a little loose. You might not be able to control it. Because we have these starter buckets that we use, we can go back to the heavier compound, grab a couple of hawkfuls of heavy compound, and add it. Just to get that consistency a little bit more to your liking, right? So, you add too much water, don't be afraid, don't be scared. You still have room in your bucket. You can add some heavier compound in there. A couple of hawkfills goes a long way. Put it right in there, mix it back up again. You're going to get it to the consistency. If you have a full bucket and you put too much water in there, you mix it up too loose, there's nothing you can really do about it. So you're either going to have to split the bucket up, go buy another bucket, start putting heavier compound into that bucket. It gets a little tricky. So I'm just trying to show you the best chance of success here of getting the compound to the right consistency that you need for what you're actually doing. Don't worry, we're going to get to the wall. We're going to get there. That's a nice quick mix. I like that consistency. Basically, we're looking for workability. We don't want it too loose where it's falling off your hawk, okay? But we want to add a little bit of water so it actually shrinks into the seams and the corners and the caps. That's what it's made to do, okay? Some of these compounds shrink more than others, right? I don't want to start getting into the heavy details as to why some do and some don't. I'm giving you the best scenario here for using these particular compounds that will give you the best chance for success when you're taping your walls. If you look at the ingredients, limestone, plaster, some of them have plaster of Paris. The ones that have plaster of Paris in them, they won't shrink as much. So you don't have to do due diligence and do major amount of homework, but you should at least understand the product that you're using. Look at the ingredients if you're curious. It's all right there. But some compounds do shrink more than others. Some don't. Again, like I said in the very beginning, there's different types. There's easy sand. There's all different types of compounds. So it's my job to show you what compounds are going to work the best for what we need to do. We don't need to get into all of the different types and whatnot, but if that makes sense. But I'm trying to get my first coat to a consistency that I can handle on my hawk without dripping it all over the place, okay? Just enough water so it adds some shrinkage. No pun intended. We put some shrinkage in. Sorry. We get the material so that it's going to shrink adequately into the seams. Okay, that's our job. That's what holds it all together. Once it all dries and we come back into the next series and we start talking about second coat, we're going to point out the fact of how the material dried and how it actually drew in the tape to seal up these seams. And that's what actually holds everything together. If that makes sense. Does it yet? Or am I just rambling? That's going to be our tape for our tape, embedding our tape, our corners, our caps, our seams. This is going to be more of a heavier compound. This is going to be for our fasteners and for our corner bead. I know I keep saying it, but I want you to get that into your head. There's two different types of consistencies on the first coat that we need to pay attention to. All right. We want that material to shrink into the seams. Less water, less shrinkage. More water, more shrinkage. Remember that. Again, this is straight out of the bucket. No water. Heavier. I like that. Little, some tips. You can mark them. You take a marker. You could put 1 for first coat, You could put H for heavy. There's different ways to do it. I don't think you're going to need to do that, but if you have to, you can. Don't be afraid to. Identify what mixture's in there. I mean, I could basically just kick it and tell. So now we're really ready to tape. We got through a good portion of the, kind of like the beginning, like if you're going shopping and the tools you need to go get. If you don't want to purchase a heavy duty drill, maybe you could borrow one from a friend. You don't need it that long, you know. Or if you really want to get a great workout, I'm sure you could still find a potato masher. And this is called the masher. We nicknamed it the masher. So let's just kind of reiterate who this video is for. This is kind of the first time homeowner, the DIYer. Has never attempted to do any kind of taping, drywall finishing before. We want to show you simple tips, tricks, and techniques that you're not going to be scared. I don't want you to be scared. You know, you just bought your first house. You got a room in there. You want to finish it. You can't find somebody to do it. Maybe you spent all the money, you know, you don't have the finances to do it. I want you to be confident enough to say, hey, I can do this and I can make this come out really, really well. It's not what a lot of people think it is. People make it think, oh, taping's an art. Taping's an art for people who have been doing it for 30 years, 20 years, 15 years. It becomes an art, and it sure does. And let's face it, if you're not good at it, at something after 15 years, you better pack it in, right? You better be like, hey, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I got to try something else. But this is automatic for me. I've been doing it for 30 plus years. So I want to try and break it down into simple tips and tricks where you guys can see it and not be afraid of it and attempt it. And don't be scared to, hey, I can tape this. You know, ceilings are harder, of course. But as we move forward into the first coat, second coat, third coat, you're going to see different things are going to be harder for you than others. Maybe you can do the screws a little bit easier than the seams, and that's okay. But repetition. You do your first room, maybe it doesn't come out so good. You do your second room, it comes out better. You do your third room, and it comes out perfect. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Get in there, get dirty, have fun with it. Get excited about it, and you know what? It's satisfying when you put a coat of paint on it and you don't see anything. It's very, very satisfying. Again, the techniques that I'm going to show you guys, I put 3 coats on everything. Sometimes 4 on the cross butts. Okay, a lot of videos out there show you how to do the inside corners in 2 coats or different methods to do the inside corners, caps and inside corners. I put 3 coats on everything. Okay, so with that in mind, that's how I'm going to be showing you to move forward through the techniques that I have to do what I do. All right. Again, I'm not here to say any videos are better or worse. You should watch this, you should watch that. I'm here to tell you what works for me, what I've learned, the mistakes that I've made, and how I've brought that to your attention. That probably doesn't sound too good, but to show you the mistakes that I made and how to do it better and simplify things. So we're going to move into taping our flat joints, flat seams, a lot of different names we call it. Sheetrock is made. When sheetrock is made, it's a liquid. It's put on a flatbed. It's got a front and a back to it. Obviously, this is the front side. And as it's drying, it goes through a rolling process, and the rollers create this bevel, right? And it's made specifically for that. In the ceiling, you could see it. The tape is made to sit below the surface. So this bevel is made to get filled with compound, all right? Going back to our tool selection. That's why, for me, I recommend a 6-inch knife. Where's my 6-inch knife? Here it is. See, I've been leaving I left my 6-inch knife. I didn't clean it. It's starting to dry up a little bit. That's all right. We'll clean it right up. 6-inch knife. the bevels or recesses on these pieces of sheetrock are 5 inches. All right. So anything less than 5 inches is going to create a challenge for you to completely fill this recess. This recess is here and it's made to fill. And it's going to help us when we're moving forward to the second coat. Again, compound shrinks. Our job is to get it flat and smooth. All right. The more compound we put on here, we do have the risk of creating a little bit of a hump. And now you know how you get that hump out? You sand and sand and sand. Nobody wants to sand, right? We're going to show you how to do it with very minimal sanding, all right? Come down on the wall. I don't know if you could see it. It's hard to see. You see light coming through there. Again, the sheetrock is designed to accept the tape. I chose and wanted to show you the different types of tools. It goes in 2-inch increments, 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch. It makes it easier for us to understand that on every coat, we bring it a little further out, a little further out. That's why these tools are designed by 2 inches. You want to bring it 2 inches out, all right? Your first coat, we're going to embed the tape with the 6-inch knife, all right? I like to wipe it out, and I'm going to show you with my 8-inch knife. It just really assures me that I'm going to bury that tape and get that recess nice and filled. Moving forward a little bit, we're going to go to our 10-inch knife. Our 10-inch knife is going to flare it out even more. We're going to now coat that tape, bring it out, and then for the final coat, we use the 12-inch. So if you remember, 6 inches, 10 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. That'll kind of give you, without thinking, knowing that you want to flash this seam out. Get a little bit wire to cover the edge, right? If that makes sense. Another thing too, the heavier the compound that we use, the more of an edge it's going to leave. So be mindful of that. The lighter the compound, the looser the compound, the less of an edge it's going to leave. So here's the fun part. Let's get going. I'm just going to do this and follow my own instructions. We're going to keep the buckets that we're not using, just lay the lid on there. Air gets to it, it starts to dry. We don't need it to dry. Let's start here. Again, my techniques are my techniques that I've learned from trial and error over the course of time. There's different ways to do things. This is what works for me. This is what I'm going to show you. I do it every single day. I'm still in the field. Been doing this a long time. I always walk into a job, walk into a room, and address the crossbutts first. We're going to leave out the pre-filling. We're going to leave out any of the damaged sheetrock. We're going to leave all of that stuff out. We're going to follow that up with a whole nother series that's going to be dedicated just for that. You walk into your room, maybe your cousin did the sheetrocking and he did a terrible job. We need to pre-fill everything before we can even tape, okay? That's going to be a whole nother show. We'll talk about that in detail. Right now, I want you to get to a point where you're taping. I always do the crossbutts first. Reason being, we can do this on a dry run here. Let's show you a dry run, okay? We want, when we put our tape, we want this on the crossbutt. We want this piece of tape to end here. And when we put this piece of tape across, it buries the fresh cut end. And it's the same thing with the cap in the corner, right? Cap up here, we're going to bury that. We're going to bring it down here. We're going to cut it. The corner is going to bury the cut edge, this tape. For whatever reason, I've seen people do the corners first, the seams first, then the crossbutts. That doesn't work for me, and it shouldn't for you. I'm telling you what works the best. So with that being said, let's start with the crossbutt. I should probably tell you why it's called the crossbutt. That's kind of important too. These are rolled edges. We call it a butt edge. When the blade comes down and cuts the sheetrock, it's not beveled. So it's called the end butt or the butt of the sheetrock. When you have two butt edges connected together, our job is to make that flat, right? So we're already starting out at a disadvantage because we don't have the beveled edge in here. We have a cross butt. Now these, again, I sheetrock this. It's pretty decent. You'll get on some jobs where some studs are not correct and this, that, and the other thing, or even in your house. We got to flare this out. Our best chance of success when you're sheetrocking is you want to put a factory butt joint to a factory butt joint. Sometimes we can't do it. We don't have the material, or we're trying to use as much material as we can. So you're going to actually free cut this. You cut it with a T-square. So now you have a factory butt joint up against a joint that you cut by hand. Okay. So our job is, and typically we're going to get that joint where it's going to rock a little bit, opposed to the recess where the tape is sitting below the surface. Now we're going to put tape on here and we're going to create a little bit more of a hump, which is fine if we know how to address it. We're going to wind up flaring this out to flatten this out, and that's going to be our goal. Smooth and flat, right? So hopefully that makes some sense. And again, if you ever have any questions, we're going to be available to answer questions. We're going to give you our contact information. We're going to give you our email address, so on and so forth. If you do have any questions, I'm going to be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, because I know this is a lot of information to take in all at once, especially if you've never done it before. You're probably like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But you're going to be able to do it. Follow what I'm saying. Pick up the techniques that I use. Hold your knife correctly, and you're going to do very, very well. Let's start. Another reason using using the hawk gives me an opportunity to get the compound on the full blade, right? There are going to be times when we don't want the compound on a full blade, when we're only going to want it on half the blade, left or right. But for this particular application, we want to fill it. We want to cover this seam. I'm going to show you in a second another trick that we always picked up when I was teaching my apprentices. They're always like putting the tape on and it was running over here, over there. So we're going to start from the top and we're going to put the compound on. Okay. Look at the clean edge of my knife. Look how much compound is left. It's going to take a little bit of time for you to get used to this. But what I want you to do is I want you to start with an open knife. And as you come down, you flatten that knife out. Look where my finger is. Look where I'm holding my knife. My fingers are down at the end. I'm right here and I'm pressing. Okay. You can't get that like this. You can get it like this. You can control your knife this way. Open, open, close, open, close. This is going to be key moving forward. How you hold your knife is very, very, very important. And it's going to help you. We're going to continue. Flatten that knife out as you feel that compound dissipate, flatten her out. You don't have to press. You don't have to, just nice and easy. You like the way that looks? We'll take a little bit more compound and we'll start from the top. And now we're going to make sure, and we'll just glide it on there. Look at my hand, how it's flattening out. Look where my fingers are. Okay. Could always put a little bit more on there. Now I'll get a lot of people that will just be like, all right, well, now I can't see the seam anymore. Like, what am I going to do? Here's a trick. Trick of the day. Hopefully, take your knife. Put it in the seam. You see that my knife is in the seam? Go down the seam. Very, very lightly. Now you see the seam. Biggest mistake. Most common mistake. Anywhere on the taping jobs. First timers, even professionals do it every once in a while. You don't get enough compound behind the tape. That creates a blister, what we call a blister. Okay? By doing this, we're not removing any of the compound, but we're identifying where the seam is. So you know now when you lay in your tape where you want that seam. I want you to make sure you get a nice fresh cut edge. Again, front and back to the tape, right? Crease side goes to the wall. Always, 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 always. I can tell you this much. Let's just show you a quick demonstration. Crease side down. Ken, what happens if I don't? What happens if I make a mistake and I put it on backwards? What'll happen is when this tape starts to shrink, because the natural projection of this crease, it's going to want to pop out, and that's going to create a problem on your seams. You don't want that to pop out. You want that to shrink in to the seam. Shrink into the seam. That's key. Let's go back. We get our fresh tape. How you hold your knife. We know where our seam is. I'm going to put our tape up there. I don't like that cut, look, but we're going to go with it. I like it nice and square, but we're going to go with it because it's going to get covered. And we go right down the center of that seam, come right to the center of this seam, and we cut it. Okay? I know I made it look easy, but I've been doing it for 100 years. So, remember in the beginning I said the hawk sometimes helps us, right? Another hand guides us. What I like to do with my hawk is I put that right on the top of that tape, take my 6-inch knife, and I wipe. Okay? I'm not pushing that hard. I'm pulling the compound. Oh, did you see that? That's a big wallop. That's a big wallop there. That's a big... All right, again, it's water-based. Clean it up. Don't step on it, because now you're going to track it all over your house. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be in your car. It's going to be everywhere. Clean it up right away. Anyway, we had the hawk up here. We hold it. We bring it down. I want you to continue. You got a little bit of compound on there, right? You can see where the tape was. I want you to take that compound. I want you to go like that. And I want you to go down. I want you to go like that. I want you to go down. Is that the compound? Clean it up. A little bit more. I want you to go like that. And I want you to go down it. Okay. Everybody says, well, if I wipe this, what happens? Right? That happens. The tape is starting to pull with my knife. Again, going back to the angle of your knife. The more open and harder you press, the more you're going to put pressure on that tape and pull that compound out. You flatten that knife out. You still want to put a little bit of pressure on here, but you're not going to pull the tape down, okay? You flatten your knife out. Flatten. Flatten. Go down the side. Same thing up here. Go down the side. And you clean that up. I like the way that looks. We'll show you a little bit of a technique later on, but for right now, I like that. Holding your knife, I'm going to keep saying this until everybody gets it. Holding your knife, the angles are going to make a big, big difference, okay? Let's move on to the seam. Remember now, cross butts first, then our seams. Why do we want to do our seams next? Because we want the edges of the tape to get buried by the corner. Okay, we don't want to put the edge of the tape on top of the corner. You'll never get that flat. We're going to leave this crossbutt out for right now. We're going to just go concentrate in this area. So, okay, so we left off with the crossbutt, right? We got the crossbutt. It's in there. Nice. We stopped here. Listen, you don't have to stop exactly there. If you stop there, it's okay. If you stop there, it's okay. I just want you to be inside this bevel. I want you to be in there, okay? Okay? So don't be like, oh my God, I didn't cut it right exactly on the seam, this, that, and the other thing. You're fine. Just be inside that bevel. So you got a little bit of room for error there, right? Just be in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this bucket, we're going to put it up there because I don't feel like bending. How's that? That's the only reason. Simplify. Make it simple, right? Simplify the process. And I got to bend all the way down there when I can just go right there. Okay. So now we're going to come across, we're going to do the flat seam, right? Remember I told you the bevel is 5 inches? We're using a 6-inch knife. Our goal is to fill that bevel with tape and compound. Again, same technique, putting the compound on. I like to always show, I used to say, you know, folks would be like, well, how do I keep it clean? How do I do this? That's going to come from practice. It's just practice, keeping it clean and practice, right? I always taught my apprentices that when they were grabbing compound off the hawk, to make sure you heard that. Do you hear that? And what that does is it gives you a clean edge of your knife. Your knife is clean. So that just means that you're going to have a better chance of being clean on the wall. That's all that is. It's just a little thing that I always said, hey, hear that. Hear that that hawk is clean. See that that knife is clean. You don't have stuff hanging off of it. Easier said than done. It's repetition and practice, I promise you. So we're going to start at the corner bead. And again, watch where my fingers are. It's very, very important. It's going to help you in the long run. Where you position your hands and fingers on the knife is really important. So we're going to get a decent amount of compound on there. I'm going to start from here. And it's the same thing up and down or horizontal. It's the same. You're going to open your knife. My finger's going to be a little bit lower on the knife. My other fingers are going to be lower on the handle. And we're just going to push until we don't feel it anymore. Look where I'm holding that knife. All right? This handle's almost on the wall. There's another little trick that I like to share. Same, get your compound. You can also, instead of just starting like that, put a little dab there and then drag it. I have found that that helps a lot of people who are doing it for the first time. Keep it a little bit cleaner, keep it a little bit more uniform. We don't want this. We don't want that. We want compound in there. If you run your tape over top of this with no compound in there, what are we going to get? We're going to get blisters. I said that earlier. The funny part about blisters is you don't know that you have a blister until you put the second coat on it. I mean, obviously, if we had a big blister like that, we would be able to tell. If that happens, even the smallest, if it's the size of a dime even, we won't know that we have a blister there until we put the second coat on. So now think about this. Your first coat is dried. You come back, you want to put your second coat on. You run your second coat. All of a sudden, you see a bubble. You're like, oh, what is that? Well, that's a blister. That means you didn't do your job on the first coat. What do you have to do? You got to cut that blister out. So essentially, we're almost starting from scratch. So now we're setting ourselves back. We're not setting ourselves up for success. Okay? Let's go with the technique here. I'm going to just swat it on there, and I'm going to float that. I'm going to swat it sideways, and then I'm going to float it. Okay? You can usually tell. You can see a little bit of sheetrock there. I'm okay with that. You could always put a little bit of compound back on your knife and just float. No pressure, just float right over it. All right? Yes, there's some videos out there that are going to tell you to put it on differently. Yes, there are going to be people that say, why are you putting it on like that? There's another technique where you slide the compound on. You don't need as much. But now you have to press even harder to get that recess filled. Remember, our goal is to fill this recess. Okay? That recess is pretty much filled at this point. We really don't have to do too much extra work. Now when we come back and we embed the tape and we wipe, we got a better chance of having that seam being filled with compound, which is what our goal is. So again, help ourselves. Don't leave a little bit of compound in there, just enough for the tape to stick there. The recess isn't filled, because what happens is now I have to make that up on the second coat. And I got to fill that recess on the second coat. What happens? Compound shrinks. Okay? Just as I was saying earlier, If we put too much compound on there, we can have a hump. If we put too little, you can still see the recess. We need to make sure we have adequate amount of compound in there with the tape, fill the recess to give us a better chance of being successful for our second coat. Remember, flat and smooth is our goal. Cork goes down. Let's bring in our roll of tape. So again, the way it comes off, the roll, the side that goes to the wall is always on the outside. Okay? So I've seen, there's different, a lot of people do things differently, right? I'm just here to show you what I've learned over the course of time. A lot of people tape with tools. Production taping is done with tools, right? Specific flat boxes, bazookas, all of those things. There's a thing that's called a banjo, where it gets pushed, the tape gets pushed through the banjo. It gets compound on both sides. You just put it on the wall and somebody comes behind you and you wipes it. That's all fine and good. There's big rolls of tape. There's little rolls of tape. My recommendation is this is a 250-foot roll of tape. Perfect for your hand. Easy to control with your hand. If you get those big rolls of tape, it's very, very difficult to hold with your hand. Those are really made for production taping. You don't need it. Just get the smaller roll. You're going to thank yourself later when your hand is not killing you, right? Again, tape, front and back, crease to the wall. Remember I showed you on this cross butt how we identify where the seam is? Same idea for here. People lift this and go, oh my goodness, I can't see where I'm supposed to put the tape. You go to the edge, you take your knife, slide it right through. You can see your seam now, right? You get a little bit on there, just throw it back on there. Take your tape. You want that crease to line up with that line you created. I have a tendency, as I'm rolling the tape on, to always pull it down. So I'm constantly moving the tape. That's just me. I've always done that. I know that's a flaw, but I know how to fix it, right? You look, come to the end, you can straighten that tape out, okay? Make sure you're in there. If you got it right the first time and you're happy with where it's laying, you don't have to adjust the tape at all. It's beautiful. For this particular wipe, I'm going to use a 10-inch knife. I'm going to omit the 8-inch knife. If you're going to continue to do drywall repairs, taping in your house, absolutely pick up an 8-inch knife. It can help. You can use it instead of the 10-inch. I'm going to simplify it a little bit. We're going to use a 10-inch for the wipe and the second coat, and then we'll use a 12-inch for the polish. So maybe you don't want all these tools. You just need a couple. This is all you really need. So again, I was showing you how to hold your hand on the 6-inch knife. It's no different with the 10-inch knife. And you're going to see soon when we do the second coat how being able to move your finger from side to side is going to help you as you move the compound and manipulate the compound on the wall, right? Side to side, up, down. See my fingers. And you're going to see as I flatten out, it's the same idea. Flat, open, different angles. We always start with a little bit of compound on the knife. Gives us a little bit, I guess, lubrication. So we're not just grabbing a dry piece of tape, right? Remember the technique I showed you to put the compound on the wall? Swipe it this way. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little bit on there. We're going to go in the center, and we're going to wipe out. I barely even pressed, okay? I barely pressed, which is easier on your hands. It's just the easier process. And now we're going to go this way. A little bit of compound that's already on there. I'm going to throw it back on there. And you're just dabbing it on there. You're not pulling. There's no pressure. And I want you to come this way. Okay? I want you to see that effortlessly, because we put the compound on in the beginning with the 6-inch knife to cover this recess, how effortlessly it was to wipe out that compound and create a nice, solid, what's the word? I don't even know. We filled the recess, okay? This is our goal. You could see it where we filled it, okay? Again, you won't see that on the crossbutt because it doesn't have the recess in there, but you will see it on the flat joints, which again, it's factory made that way to accept this tape and compound in there. Now, what I was explaining to you earlier, if you don't fill this recess in and you get that and there's not enough compound in there, is it the end of the line? No. Can you fix it? Yes. You can fix everything, okay? What that may require is additional coat, though, because, again, the compound shrinks, right? Even as heavy as the compound is on the second coat, when you try and fill this recess in, now you're filling that in. Why not fill it ahead of time to give you a better chance of success for your second coat, right? So that's our goal. Again, compound on the knife, little bit, no pressure, hold my knife low, and really, if you're flipping eggs, it's like, just throw it on there. Give yourself a little bit of a lubricant on there to glide across and fill that recess. So you walk into the room, it's freshly sheetrocked. I also want to bring this up too. Typically, when we go in and we start working, we like to work from the top down, right? We'll do the ceiling first and work our way down. And the reason being is because we all make a mess. There's potential for a mess. And this is the rationale behind starting high and working low. If you do wind up dropping any compound and it does hit the walls as you're working, as you work down, you can clean your wall up, right? You're working up here, you're doing this and you drop a little bit of compound on the wall, it lands down here. You can clean it up. Keep them clean as you work down. For ease of operations and to show you guys, I started with the wall first. We would continue with the wall. We would do our crossbutt first again, just like we did here. We would continue with our seam, and we would put our corner in. Now, for teaching purposes, I'm only doing sections of these to show you. You would continue with this seam. So if we were to do this wall from scratch, we would do this crossbutt, we would do this crossbutt, then we would do this entire seam. We wouldn't put a break in there. But for teaching purposes, we're doing it this way to show you how it looks with a coat on it, how it looks without a coat on it. It just gives you a visual and helps you, right? I want to jump to the ceiling because people get scared of the ceiling. Obviously, we're on a lower ceiling here because this is a set that we built. Typically, I would be on my stilts. Back in the day, here's my stilts. They're retired. They're up there. You see those stilts up there? Can you see them? Those poor things. They got 100,000 miles on the... I can't walk on the stilts no more. Takes its toll on you, right? It's like anything else. You do it for a long time, beat you up. Ceilings are typically 8 feet. People get scared of the ceilings. Why? Because you're working overhead. It does take trained muscles, right? Train your muscles. It's different muscles you're using. Okay, but don't be afraid. You could use a bench. You get up there. You can do small pieces at a time. What I want to show you is how you put the compound on the seams without making a giant mess. Again, we got the same scenario. Crossbutt into a recessed seam. It's the same scenario as we had on this wall. Okay, it's just that it's above our head now. If I were to go and put the compound on, I showed you the same way. We're going to use the same technique. If I were to go and put our compound on this way, chances are for the first time novice, first time beginner, first time anything, the compound is going to fall. You're not going to be able to control it like I control it. So my recommendation is you put some compound on your knife. And again, same technique. I want you to side swipe it, and I want you to go like that. That's going to give you better chance of not dropping compound all over the floor, all over your head, your face, your clothes. Again, it's water-based. It'll wash. But if you know how to not make a mess, we don't want to make a mess. Side swipe and pull it. Okay? We got a nice little uniform bed of compound there. Same technique. Again, it's going to be repetition, right? Get your knife in there. Find your seam. Don't press. Very loose. Go down your seam. Now you know where to put your tape. You're working above your head. Okay? Let's get our tape. All right, I showed you here. Bury that tape. Bury the end of the tape in the recess. This time we'll go a little bit further. It doesn't matter. As long as we're in that 5 inches of recess, we're okay. We know where our seam is. We want to line that crease up with the seam as best as we can. But Ken, what happens if we don't line it up as best as we can? It's okay. It could be off a little bit. As long as it's within reason, we're still going to cover that up from cracking. What we don't want is we don't want that. Okay? We want that. We could always stretch our tape. Tape stretches. Okay? Again, using the hawk. Why do I use the hawk? It's helpful in many ways. It becomes another hand for you. Go back and look at the first video. I put my hawk up here. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put that hawk, and that's going to hold that tape from pulling. If I don't do that and I just start wiping, a lot of times this is what will happen. That's what happens. Okay? We don't want that. Now what we did is we pulled all of the compound out of the recess. We need to put it back. If that does happen, don't get scared. Don't get nervous. Now you're going to have to get a little dirty. You got to straighten your tape out. You're going to use your hand. You're going to stretch it out. And you're going to put it back into place. Again, go back, use your hawk. Get that hawk in there. Hold it. I want you to take a couple of wipes and then press. Look at where my finger is. Look at where my hands are. Okay? It's repetition. It's the same thing over and over again. You're going to hear me like a broken record. Before you know it, you're going to be like, I know. You got to put the compound in. You got to do it like this. But if I don't keep telling you, you won't do it. And you'll be like, why? This is why. Take a little bit of compound. Get that tape wet. And drag it. And drag it through. Okay? What do I do there? Can I leave that? No, you can't leave that. It's 2 ways you can fix this. You can try pulling it out very flat. Keep your knife flat and pull it out. What a lot of people do is it's easier. Take your knife for that little section and just push. That's it. Never wipe your tape without a little bit of compound on your knife to lubricate that tape. Once you put a dry knife to dry tape, you will pull that tape off. Always a little bit of lubricant. Let's swipe it. Okay, we're going to clean this side. We're going to swipe it, and we're going to clean that side. Okay, we got a nice clean edge there, right? There's a good point that Anthony brought up earlier. Why did you use the 10-inch knife here and the 6-inch knife over here? What I want to do is on the cross butts, because there's no recess and I'm not filling anything in. I want to try and get as much compound out of the tape as I can to keep this joint flat. So if I don't press hard enough and squeeze that compound out, that excess compound, we have enough compound underneath here to keep this from blistering. But if we leave too much in there, we're going to create more of a problem where this crossbutt is going to rock even more. And we were trying to eliminate that. Now remember, because we have water in our compound, everything is going to shrink. It's all going to shrink. All right? Just keep that in mind. The more water, the more it's going to shrink. So now we have our crossbutt done. Same technique as we used on the wall. It's just above our head now. Okay? A little more compound. When we're doing longer stretches, the technique that I'm showing you, the swipe and drag, that's going to help you from dropping the compound all over the place. Again, why do I use a hawk? If we do drop it, it's a shield. Yeah, like medieval days. It's like back in the day when we were fighting off other soldiers, right? We're using a... Okay, enough of that. Take the compound again, get adequate enough amount of compound on here. We swipe and we drag. We flatten our knife out. Okay? I want to show you if I can even do it. If I just go like this, I'm not using the swipe and drag method. I'm just going to pull it from here. Watch what happens with that compound as I squeeze. You see how that comes out like that? That will happen to you every time. There's nowhere for the compound to go but out. So this is why I'm showing you the swipe and drag technique. Will it take a little bit more time? Maybe. All you got is time. It's your house. You're doing it for the first time. Where are you going? You want to do a good job or you want to do a bad job? You do it this way, you're going to have a better chance of being successful for your second and third coat. Okay? And you're going to keep the floor clean. You're going to keep yourself clean. You won't have compound all over your house. Trust me, when I come in from work, I got to leave my clothes in the garage because I get compound. Anything that's on me just falls off. It's everywhere. It's in my truck. It's on the ground. And I'm neat. Trust me. All right. So for this application, we're going to do the full seam because it's here. Why not? Again, compound on the knife. We're going to swipe and we're going to drag. And we're going to feel that compound dissipate. And we're going to flatten that knife out. Again, look where my fingers are. You see how I'm holding that knife? My fingers right about in the center, putting pressure on the bottom. It's really, really important. When we get into the next coats, how you move your fingers along the blade of the knife is going to be really, really important. And it's going to help you understand why we're doing things the way we're doing it, right? Remember the why. Again, swipe and pull. Okay? We'll come backwards. Again, swipe and pull. Okay? We've got plenty of compound on there. I don't see any dry spots that are going to create blisters. I think I'm happy with that application on there. Little trick that I showed everybody earlier. Take your knife, put it into the seam, and drag. Go. And you're just showing where your seam is. Do I do that every time? No. Will you have to do that every time? No. But in the beginning, I recommend you doing it until you get a feel for where your tape should be. You'll know that your knife is 6 inches and what you left here is 6 inches, and you need to be directly in the center of where the compound is. For ease right now, I'm showing you that little trick. It just makes it easier for you. You know where to lay the tape. You're not doing a whole house, you're doing a room in your house, right? Tape. Again, repetition, right? Crease side faces the wall. Don't put the tape on backwards. We had one guy come in and he did a whole house. He put the tape on backwards. Ooh, that was a mess. We had to go back and fix it all, cut it all out because it blistered, because it pulled, it didn't shrink the right way. Oh, it was a disaster. He didn't last too long, that guy. We're going to put the tape on the end, guide it with your hand, your left hand, if you're lefty or righty. If you're a lefty, ooh, you got more problems. As we say in the trade, I never met a good lefty taper. That's a joke for the people who know me. They'll get it. Put that crease right where that line that you created. Go right down. Again. You open that knife like that, you'll never be able to cut it. You flatten that knife, just like you're cutting a piece of masking tape, just like duct tape, anything like that. Put that knife on there and just pull. Simple, right? Where's my 10-inch knife? I'm going to use the 10-inch knife. I'm going to stick with the 10-inch knife. Now look, my 10-inch knife has been sitting for a little bit, so it's dirty. My 6-inch knife is starting to get dirty, right? The side that I use is kind of clean. You can always scrape it, keep it clean. That's okay. But you see that little bit there? As that starts to build up, we don't want any of that in the material, okay? That's just going to create havoc when we're trying to create smoothness. We don't want havoc, right? So typically what happens with stuff like this, guys will throw it on the floor or throw it in the trash can. I usually just wipe it. I put it on my leg, all right? You're going to get dirty. It's construction. What are we going to do? Okay, back to repetition. You guys are going to be like, wow, he just keeps telling us to do the swipe and pull, swipe and pull. That's how it is. This is how it gets done. I didn't say it was rocket science. Just said it was a little technique and finesse, right? We want to put the swipe. We're going to lubricate the tape as we're dragging it. On the ceilings especially, the more open you keep your knife, the harder it is to control, the more compound you're going to pull out, right? Swipe. So we want to flatten it out a little bit. And typically on my 10-inch knife on the ceilings, I put a little pressure on there. And the way I do that is I drop my fingers down to the bottom of the knife. I put this finger lower on the blade and I press, okay? Now, I'm creating that little flex in that knife, and that's okay. And that's what we're going to pull the excess compound out, but leave just enough in there that's going to give us success for the second coat, okay? So the swipe and pull, okay? Now we're going to go back the other way. Swipe and pull. Clean it. Again, swipe and pull. Now you see that line in there? I got a little bit of a line. It's hard to see, but that means I got a little bit of dried up junk that we were just talking about in the compound, all right? Can we leave it? Sure we can. It'll be fine. Do we want to leave it? No, we want to be clean, and we want to be successful for our second coat. It's okay. We go back, swipe, and wipe. Okay? Swipe and wipe. Look where my finger is. Look how I'm putting pressure on that knife. All right? My other fingers are down low. My index finger is down low, but we're pressing. You can see the flex in that knife. That's going to help you. Swipe and go. See, I like to show this here, and I don't know if you could pick it up on camera, but there's a little bit of an area where I didn't get enough compound in to fill the recess. And this shows that, can we fix that? Yes, we can fix that, obviously. And if it's all the way, yes, we can fix it. We fix it with the second coat. We don't want to leave it like this only because, again, compound shrinks, okay? We want this recess to be full, filled. Our second coat is really just going to cover up our tape and a little bit of the recess from when it shrunk. So if we leave this bare like this, that means that the second coat, we have to add more compound over here, and that's going to shrink. So 3 coats may not do it. We may have to put a 4th coat on there. Some guys will say, you don't have to, you do. I'm just telling you what works for me. I know the mistakes that I've made in the past, and I'm showing you how to be successful for your second coat and your 3rd coat, okay? It's like we always talk on the trades always talk. You want to be successful for the next guy or the next step, right? If the framer doesn't do a good job, the sheetrocker doesn't do a good job, the taper doesn't do a good job, the painter doesn't do it, right down the line. So you want everything to be in succession. Respect the guy coming after you. Do the best job that you can, okay? And ultimately give you the chance to be successful. Again, repetition, swipe and wipe. Oh, Ken, what happened there? Look, we got a little bit of a bump in the middle of the tape. Remember I showed you earlier? You can stretch your tape. You want to go to the end and you want to pull your tape. Just press, and that pulls that wrinkle right out. Okay? That's okay. Remember, it's all going to shrink. Swipe and wipe. Get to the end. Now what? I showed you over here. You're going to have to go back and look at some of these because it's, again, repetition. Take your 6-inch knife, push it this way. Very lightly. Don't be forceful. Go very lightly. And now you're just left to clean up the mess. We'll put a little bit of compound. It's always lubricate, wipe, fill that recess. Let's come to this side. Wipe, fill that recess. Got a little bit here. Let's get in there and clean that up. And there we have it. We have the ceiling taped. Crossbutt, flat joint on the ceiling, crossbutt, flat joint on the wall. Something else I thought I should add from the beginning. You know, it states on the manufacturers always state on the cans that, you know, to make sure it's adequate temperature. Drying times do vary, right? The cooler it is outside, it's going to take longer to dry. The hotter it is, it's going to dry faster. However, if it's humid, that's going to prolong the drying as well. The reason being, this is a water-based product. When it's humid, there's moisture in the air. This stuff dries by evaporation. If there's nowhere for the water and the compound to go because it's humid out, it's going to take longer to dry. So if you're working in your house, don't have it at 100 degrees. Don't have it at 30 degrees. Have it at a nice temperature that can give you the opportunity for it to dry correctly. You don't want it to dry too fast. If it dries too fast, it has a tendency to crack, right? When we're doing basements, we like to have air circulation. Forced hot air is the best for this because it actually sucks the moisture out of the air. It'll suck the moisture out of the compound, but it also gives it an opportunity to dry at a correct speed, right? Drying too fast makes it crack. Drying too slow, we can't progress on the job. Just something I thought I would add. In case you're like, oh my God, it's 100 degrees out. My compound's drying so fast. Yeah, it's going to dry so fast. So, you know, just be aware of that. The elements, the weather conditions, all of that affects how the compound dries, right? But if you're in your own home, you'll be able to monitor the heat and you won't have to worry about those things. But just something I think that everybody should know. So right now we're going to move into inside corners. Probably the most difficult in the taping to do because everybody has their different techniques and styles to do it. I told you in the very beginning, I put 3 coats on everything, okay? A lot of people tell you that you can get away with 2 coats on the inside corners. Can you get away with it? Sure. Do I do it? I do not. I try and provide the best possible taping job that I can, okay? 3 coats for me works. It works for my customers. It works for the people I work for. It does a better job. Give yourself 3 coats. If you do make any mistakes, you can hide it with the 3 coats. There's a couple of things that you need to consider with the inside corners, okay? Especially with the ceilings, the walls, okay? When the installation of the sheetrock is done, there's always a piece that goes up first and then second, okay? In this particular application of the drywall, this piece of sheetrock went up first. This piece went up second, okay? What does that mean to you and to me? That means is as we're embedding our tape into our inside corners, if we wipe this side first, our knife is going to have a tendency to go into that gap that we created. Now, if you have a flawless sheetrock job, which is very uncommon these days, you might be able to get away with that. But 95% of the time, you're not going to get away with it. So what we're going to have to do is identify what piece of sheetrock went up last. We're going to take our knife and we're going to butt it up against the piece of sheetrock that went up first. Okay, I know it sounds counterintuitive. I know it sounds a little weird. Do we need to be that technical? Do you need to? No, you can get away with doing it the other way, but now you're going to be forced to fill that gap in on your corner, which is most people's not strong point. Even professional tapers do it differently. They have struggle with the inside corners. Most people say it's the hardest thing to do when you're taping. Why have your knife go into that gap like I'm showing you here? Into that gap like I'm showing you here. We can get a nice square corner by wiping this side first, this side second. Okay, let's get some compound. Again, nice and clean. I just cleaned my tools before so we don't have any debris. There's different ways to apply the compound. There's the sliding method, which I think I mentioned in the front. You could use the sliding method for your seams as well. You could use your sliding method for your corners. Absolutely. I do it that way. There's a corner roller that you can use. I do have one. Maybe I'll bring it out later. Corner roller that would mud both sides. I said mud. I don't like that word. Typically, we like to do the corners first, and then we'll do the caps coming into it. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. It's just how I'm programmed to do it and how I've been doing it for years and years. There's really no correct way. You could put this corner cap in first, then this, then this. You could do it this, that. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same outcome either way. I'm just programmed to do it that way because I've been doing it that way for so long. So let's move over to this side. Remember, our wiping and our mudding. I said mud again. I don't like it. I'm slacking. So we're going to want to put the compound on the side that went up first. Okay? We're going to start from the top. Again, compound half on the knife. Start up here. And we're going to start to pull down. All right? Same as when we're mudding our seams, again, with the mud. As we're putting compound on our seams. As we feel that compound dissipate on the knife, we start to flatten our knife out, right? If we start like this, we're not going to get that compound on there. If we start like this, we're going to struggle. I make it look easy, okay? Because I've been doing it a long time. But if you take your knife and just dab it, keep one side off, you're going to just put compound on one side, right? And we want to come down, and again, you're going to feel it dissipate, and you're done. There's hardly any on there. You could always go back, put a little bit more compound on here, and just glide over it. Again, what we're trying to avoid is blisters. We don't want blisters. Blisters are our enemy. Okay? Now we're going to come to the other side. This is the side that was put up last. This is where the gap is, right? Sometimes these gaps are big. Sometimes they're small. We're going to do the same thing on this side, just the opposite side of the knife, right? Half my knife, we're going to fill with compound. See, the other half is empty. I'm going to start the same way. Come down. Flatten that knife out. Yeah. Half. Flatten. Here's the difference when you're doing corners opposed to when you're doing seams. Okay? We want to keep our knife as flat as we can. If we're putting the compound on, and I want to show you this, if we open up our knife and we press into that corner, watch what happens here. See what we did there? We pulled compound off of the wall that we already have compound on. That would create a blister, okay? Blisters are our enemy. Let's go back and fill this back in again. We're going to, again, compound on one side of the knife. I want that knife flat, and I want you to turn it as we go. Look at that angle. See where my finger is? I drop my hand down, my finger's on this side, and we're going to slightly push. our knife and our tip of our knife are going to stay right in there, and we're not going to pull compound out of here. We're going to put enough compound on here. That's a common mistake that everybody does, and it's going to hold true for the next coat as well. The angles of your knife, how you open, how you close, how you put your fingers on here make a huge, huge difference, okay? That's why I'm going to keep saying that over and over and over again. You can't, could you imagine trying to get your compound in there, holding your knife like this? Who's doing this? Like, that is so awkward and it's so hard. And I promise you, by the end of the day, your wrist will be destroyed. You'd be like walking around like, what happened? And especially if you're a bowler and you got to bowl and keep that, now you can't bowl. Like, what are we doing? We're just killing ourselves. All right. Showed you in the beginning, front and back to the tape. Again, repetition. This is something that is just going to become embedded in your mind. You're not even going to think about it anymore. You just be like, oh, there's a front and a back. You already told me a million times, front and back. We're going to take some tape. Again, for teaching purposes, I'm only doing pieces of this. At the end, I'm going to show you how to do a quick overall. Hey, this is how you do it. All right, we're going to rip this tape. We want to make sure we crease it. It's already creased, so you're going to be able to slide down that real quick. We want to make sure that our end, you see how this end is not straight, not square? We just want to close that a little bit, and we want to tear it. Come on. Oh, man, I'm getting soft. Look at that. And we're going to rip that square. See that? See how nice and square that is? Now we're ready. We're going to put this piece of tape. We're going to set it right in there. We're going to butt that square edge to the ceiling. We're going to come here. Man, my tape is giving me a hard time. Getting soft. And we're going to set that in there. Remember I showed you, or we spoke in the beginning, we don't want to wipe the side that has the gap because our knife is going to go right in there, and I'm going to show you what will happen if we do that. We have an opportunity to show you. So if I wipe this side first, okay, and I put pressure in there, that tape is going to want to go in there. You see that? The tape's going to want to go in there. It has no other way to go but to go in there. We don't want that. We're creating a nice angle here, okay? Remember, we put water in this compound in the beginning. We're embedding tape. It's going to shrink. The crease is designed to shrink into the seams and the corners. If we push that tape into that corner and we let it set like that, and now it shrinks even more, that gap is going to be harder to fill on the second coat. We go back to wiping. You see the gap? We want to wipe this side first. So our knife blade sits right on that nice square corner. We come to the top. We flatten our knife. Flatten the knife. Flatten the knife. If we open the knife and we put pressure, that's what happens. Okay? Common mistake. Put that tape back up in there. Right? Lubricate. Remember, we showed a little lubrication. Get it a little wet. Do that. Flatten the knife. Flatten the knife. I keep saying that, right? I want people to understand. Now we're going to wipe. And we're putting our edge of our blade up against that wall. Okay? And we're pressing. We're creating that angle. You can wipe it a couple of times. Don't be afraid. You're not going to get that much compound coming out of it. It's fine. Comes turn to wipe this side now. We don't want to put a lot of pressure on this. We want to put just enough pressure that's going to pull the compound out of it. Okay? Again, top, flatten the knife. Flatten the knife. Take a couple of wipes and then go down. My pressure is straight on. It's not putting pressure in there like I did here. Okay? Here, we had a nice straight surface to run our knife on. Here, we don't have that. If we put pressure this way, Our knife is going to go into that corner. All right. We're just going to drag that paper tape in there, and we're not filling that gap. We're not hiding that seam, so-called corner seam, right? Flatten your knife from the top, come down, press outward and down. We're not pushing that tape in there. You know, having an adequate sheetrock job obviously gives you better success for your taping finishing, your drywall finishing. But there's a lot of jobs you go on. Maybe it's a renovation. Maybe in your own home, you're lining up some old walls to new walls. There's some gaps here or there. You got to treat them differently, okay? Again, what I'm showing you guys today, there's no pre-filling. It's just a traditional first coat. I want you to start understanding why we're doing things the way we're doing, the consistency of the compound, how to hold the knife, right? Up, down, finger, left, right, the angles. It all makes a difference as we're moving forward. Knowing why you're doing things is very, very important, okay? Is it slightly technical? Maybe. I don't know. My job is to make it flat and smooth. Your job is to make it flat and smooth. This is how you make it flat and smooth. If that makes sense, everybody, right? Let's see. Let's take a quick look at that. I don't mind that. I think it looks good. I think we're okay. So we're going to go right into the cap, okay? Again, what do I keep saying? Repetition. It's repetition. You're going to start getting better at it and better at it and better at it as you do it, as you do it, as you do it. It's going to become just a habit for you to do, right? I don't want to overemphasize the fact that the simple techniques are really repetition, all right? But you have to learn it, and you have to understand why. I don't even know if that makes sense. Maybe it does. Okay, so let's move on to the cap. Again, you have to understand, 99.9% of the time when you walk into your home or you did sheetrocking or you did anything like that, the ceilings are done first. We call the ceilings in the trade, we call them lids, which is a trade name. If you ever hear anybody say, hey, we're going to do the lids and then we'll do the walls. The lids mean the ceilings. It's probably a little bit too much more information than you need, but I like to share some little trade talk there, right? The lids. What does that mean for us? That means the ceilings are always done first. The walls are done second. Remember I showed you where the gap is going to be, okay? Same thing on the ceilings. You're going to have the gap on the ceiling. If you wipe this first, your knife is going to go in there and you're going to you're just pushing the paper tape into the gap and making that gap harder to fill, okay? So it's the same idea as the corner. And when we move forward into the second coat, you're going to understand why I'm doing things the way that I'm doing, right? Because we're going to tie all of this in and it's going to make sense to you. And that's the whole thing, okay? Understanding why you're doing it and it makes sense, right? It's not just like I came up with this one day and said, oh, yeah, let's just do it this way. No, this has been repetition over 30 plus years, and this is what works. Again, compound on one side of the knife. A lot of people would be like, well, why don't you just fill the whole knife up? Well, and that's actually a good question, all right? We don't use an 8-inch, a 10-inch, or a 12-inch knife in the corners, okay? We only use a 6-inch. Some guys use a 5-inch, which is fine. We want to keep it, again, building it out. That's our goal. If we do a full 6-inch knife on the first coat and the second coat, it's really hard for us to bury all of that with our third coat because we want to gradually get bigger and bigger. So we want to keep it as narrow as we possibly can. The next coat, we're going to put it on a little bit wider, and then the third coat will be the widest. That's kind of why we keep it on half the knife. So we're literally taking the knife. And you know what? Now that I'm saying that out loud, If you wanted to use a 4-inch knife or a 5-inch knife to put the compound on the inside corners, by all means, go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to create the same thing. You're going to get the compound in there. We just don't want blisters. Blisters are our enemy, okay? I like to use a 6-inch knife. I use it for all the applications. Do you want to go back and use the 4-inch knife and then the 5-inch knife and then the 6-inch knife for the corners? It's perfectly fine. I personally don't do it. I don't see the need for it, but you can do it. It's okay. Let's put some compound on one side of the knife. Now we're going to start with the ceiling side first. And we're going to put the compound on. Now, don't think that you have to go the whole length in one shot, okay? You're not going to be able to do that. You can do it in little increments, and that goes for this corner, that goes for the seams, that goes for all of the cross butts. What I will tell you is that if you are doing longer seams in your home, if you have a room that's 14 feet long and your seam is 14 feet and you need to put compound on the entire seam, if it's hot in your room, that compound's going to want to dry. And when it starts to dry, we have the possibility of creating blisters, okay? So you see how all of these things are tying together. The temperature, we don't want it too hot. It may, it all makes a difference. Can you get away without it all? Yes, you can. I'm just telling you what works the best. Let's put some compound on one side of the knife. We're going to get nice, even keel compound on the ceiling. Again, we're getting that knife in there, flattening it out. You see how flat my knife is? All right. Same technique as we did on the wall. Don't be afraid to put a little bit more on there. Start from the beginning and then just kind of get it nice and even. See how it's even? There's no bumps, there's no lines, right? We still have a little bit of compound left on here. We don't have to load this whole hawk up for specific things that we're doing. Opposite side. Compound on one side of the knife, okay? Start on the bottom. We're pushing that knife up against the nice square corner now, right? We got that nice, our knife blade corner is not going in. It's hitting there. We're filling that gap. If there is a gap, this is a pretty good sheetrock job, if I must say so myself, but you're not going to get that all of the time. That's why I'm showing you to do it this way. Okay? Knife flat. Get a nice bead in there. We put our hawk down. Repetition, right? Front and back of the tape. I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. Let's rip off a little bit. Same. Crease. Fold. It's relatively easy. Once you fold it, you're going to be like, oh, that's pretty easy. You fold it. It does it it wants to do it on its own, You make sure that the edge of that tape is somewhat square. Okay. You see, you got a little bit there. That's fine. I don't mind that. We want to make sure we get it in there. We're going to push up against that wall. And we're going to put our tape in there. Don't be afraid. Okay. Embed it a little bit with your finger. I'm not pushing real hard. I'm just rubbing it in there so it sits, It's nice and cool in the garage. The compound's not drying fast, which is kind of helping us right now. But again, temperature does matter. If we were doing long stretches, you may have to shorten up those stretches because the compound's drying too fast, okay? But that's going to have to be determined on the job and in the room you're doing. But if you can control that heat and the drying time, better chance of being successful. Same technique as I showed you on the wall, we're doing on the ceiling. We want to create a nice angle, right? If we wipe the ceiling first, our corner of our knife is going to have a tendency to want to go into that gap. We don't want that to happen. Come to the end, flatten the knife. Again, going back to the angles of the knife is really important. Flatten the knife and press. So I'm lower on my handle and I'm lower on the blade. And I'm going to flatten my knife out. And I'm going to put pressure on the blade. Not a lot of pressure, just enough that I'm going to squeeze compound out, okay? And I'm going to wipe. Now, the same swipe and wipe method that we used on the seams, we can use on the corner. Put a little dab of compound there, go back, and wipe. A little dab of compound, and wipe. And I'm pushing that my blade up to the ceiling to create that nice angle, okay? Very important. We wipe the top, all right? We are not putting pressure internally this way now. Like we did here, we put pressure up top and pressure this way. Now, we're just wiping and pressing outwards, okay? Do it one time. You can go back a couple of times. If you can't get all the compound out of there in one shot, it's okay. Go back. I don't mind that. Again, that corner of that knife is not pushing in. We're wiping outward. So our pressure is not going in. Now that we got a clear understanding of how to embed our paper tape into the seams, the cross butts, and the corners and the caps, we'll move right into the fasteners and the corner bead. Screws are pretty simple as long as they're all in. So you want to make sure that your sheetrocker did a really good job countersinking your screws. If not, you'll have to carry either a Phillips head screwdriver with you, or you can have a drill over here like I have. I sheetrocked this, so I made sure that all of the screws were in, so we didn't have to go around and check them all. That's not always the case, but you will have to make sure that the screws are at least countersunk a little bit. Remember in the beginning when I showed you to mix up your two buckets? One was going to be for embedding tape. The other was going to be for heavier application, your fasteners and your corner bead. That's what we're going to move into now. We're going to go back and we're going to grab that bucket that we mixed up in the very beginning that is slightly heavier. What happens when you put water into compound? It shrinks. When we're doing corner beads and screws, we don't want it to shrink. So we're going to use a heavier compound. That's why. So we can get rid of this for now. Just lay that lid on top of it, no air, it's not going to dry up. And we're going to move to our heavier compound. We should make a little room because we're going to be doing some bead work over here. Now, I'm going to start with the beads. We'll save the screws for last. Okay, heavier compound. Corner bead. I don't know why they call it that. Maybe I could Google it and find out. Corner bead. This protects the corner. This corner bead is tapered and it's made, there's a little void in here for the compound. Almost similar to your recess here, right? It's made that way. It's made to accept compound. Like I told you in the beginning, this is a metal corner bead. There's different types of corner beads. There's paper corner beads. There's mud-on corner beads, which means you have to put compound on first, then set the corner bead. This application is metal, and I nailed it in. Perfectly fine. All of the methods are fine. They all create the same outside corner. Our goal is to make a nice, crisp, clean outside corner, just like you see in your home. Archways, corners, they're all done this way. It's pretty simple. Again, 6-inch knife. And we're going to continue to build out the next couple of coats. It's going to go 6 inches, an inch past that to feather it out, make sure we have no lines, nice and smooth. We fill the void in. All of it's repetition. You're going to put your compound on the edge of your knife. You're going to start from the top, and you're going to bring it down. You're going to flatten your knife out as the compound dissipates, and you'll know when it's gone, okay? You'll know. There's nothing left. Remember the techniques I've been showing you? The swipe and pull also can be used on the corner bead. You just take a little bit of compound like this, you put it there, and you drag it. And you're going to want to put pressure on the edge of the corner bead. You see how this is all filling in? This is all filling in the metal here. That's what we want. Swipe and drag. The reason why I'm showing you that is it's a little bit neater. You're not going to drop as much, okay? And that's going to be the case on your ceilings and your seams. If you swipe and drag, will it take you a little bit longer? Yes, of course it will. But again, you have nothing but time. This is your house. You want to make sure that this looks good when it's done. You don't want to make a mess, okay? There's always a faster way to do it, but let's do it the better way. Let's make it look the best that we can, okay? I'm going to go to the other side. I know a lot of professionals that are going to view this, they're going to look at it and going to be like, oh, but Ken, there's no tape up here. Like, we need to put the tape in first. Yes, we do. The tape, and we're going to do that in a second. But for teaching purposes, we're going to jump to the corner bead because I want to show you how to do the corner bead. We'll go back. We're going to put the corner in, the cap in, and then we'll pull that down. It's fine. Same idea. Let's get a little compound. Pull it down. Full amount of compound on your knife. Swipe and pull. Compound, swipe, and pull. Okay? Now, the difference with this is we're going to need to cut the edges on these. Oh, we need a little bit more up here. Okay. Going back to the very beginning when I showed you the angles of your knife, right? Where to put your fingers, left, right, drop your hand down, angles. If we just simply wipe this down, okay, and we put pressure on our corner bead, we're going to leave a nasty edge there, right? That's not what we want. The heavier the compound, the more of an edge it leaves. We're going to come back. We're going to move our finger to the left. We're going to drop our hand down to the edge of the knife. We're going to put pressure on this side of the knife, okay? And we're going to just drag it down. Doesn't have to be pretty, but we're going to create a nice feathered edge there, all right? This is going to help you moving forward into the second and third coats because we're going to do a lot of cutting of the edges. It's going to be important for you to understand that cutting of the edges, we don't want to leave edges. Flat and smooth, flat and smooth. Let's move to this side. Did it sooner? We're going to cut the edge. Notice my finger's on the right side now because we're cutting the right side. So we're going to pull this down. I'm going to cut that edge, right? Very little compound comes off. If you put your compound on unevenly and you cut your edge correctly, all that's left to do at this point is just take your knife and just run it straight down. And that's going to give you the nice cut edge. You're going to fill in the tapered edge of the corner bead. And that's what we're looking for right there. We don't have any dried compound in there. We don't have any lines. We got a nice clean edge. And we did our job and we filled the void that the corner bead allows us to fill. Let's move back to our other side. Again, the edge is cut. All that's left to do is take your knife and just bring it down. I'm hardly pressing. Hardly pressing. We want to press enough. Now, if we press too much, what are we doing? We're taking the compound out of the corner bead. That's not what we want. We want to flare this out so it's a nice square corner. If we press too hard, if we come down and we press too hard, we're pulling all of the compound out of there. You see my knife is pressing. We don't want that. We want, these corner beads are made to fill, right? Cut the edge, Very little bit of pressure wiping. And we fill that corner bead in nice. Clean the edge, and we're good to go. Get a little bit on that side. Okay, we can go back. We're nice and clean. And that's what your corner bead should look like after the first coat. Our next coat, we're going to, like I said, we're going to flare it out a little bit more. We're going to flare it out a little bit more, right? That's our goal. Flat and smooth. And the way you do that is you taper everything out. Taper it out. Last but not least, in the first coat, our screws, screw heads, fasteners, what have you. The simplest of the process when you're drywall finishing. Hence the reason why is when we had new guys, and I had new guys come on my job site, when I was teaching a lot of guys, I've taught hundreds of people how to tape. The first thing we taught them was the screws. It's the easiest, and it teaches you how to hold your knife and how to handle your tools. And we would do whole houses, and one guy would do screws all day long. He would come in the next day and be like, what am I doing today? You're doing screws. What am I doing tomorrow? You're doing screws. How long? Until you're the best guy at doing screws. And then you'll move on to the next technique, right? Everybody always wanted to get to the flats because they thought it was glamorous. But if you can't do the screws, the simplest of the tasks, what makes you think you're going to be able to do the next task just as well? So you got to start from the bottom up, work your way up. It's a couple of different ways, really. Couple means two ways to do your screws. How I taught my apprentices to start, because you want to learn how to hold your tools. You take a little bit of compound, put it on the edge of your knife. I want you to start understanding how I'm tying all of these techniques into one thing. The swipe and drag, swipe and drag, swipe and drag. Same thing. Swipe, drag. Swipe, drag. Swipe, drag. Okay? It's pretty simple. A lot of common mistakes what people do is they'll swipe, and I want you to understand, I don't even know if I could do it. Let's see. If I swipe and I leave a little bit of, you see how the edge of my blade is not clean? One side is clean, the other's not clean. I got compound on there. What's going to happen is when I go and wipe, I'm going to leave that compound up here. That's not what we want. We want flat and smooth, right? We don't want any of this junk on the walls. So when we swipe, we want the blade of that knife to be clean. Although there's compound on there, the edge of the blade is clean, okay? So that's just the technique, is a little dab. Remember I showed you in the beginning? I want to hear that sound, that clean sound. Tie it all together. Swipe and drag, okay? You'll notice on the screws, because it's taking a little bit more compound, screws are going to have a tendency to kind of push out. They're going to create a little bit of a bubble there. That's common. Don't get scared. When the moisture releases from the compound, it has a tendency to push out on the screw heads. It's going to shrink back in. And if it doesn't shrink back in when we get to the second coat, all we're going to do is we're going to run our knife along it, and we're just going to clean it up to make sure there's nothing that popped out. We want smooth and flat, okay? When my apprentices learned this technique, and they got pretty good at it, it was almost the next step. They almost organically figured out how to do the slide method, right? You heard me say slide method in the beginning. We could slide our seams. We could slide our corners. It's faster. Some guys prefer it. Some guys don't. But organically, when you're doing screws and you're doing a whole house, eventually you're going to just organically grow into that. And what I mean by the slide method is it's the same idea. You put your compound on there, you side your blade, your knife, you start from the bottom, and you push your way up. And as that compound dissipates, you switch the pressure of the knife. It's a little different how I'm holding my knife. I got my thumb here and my finger here. When I'm sliding, I have more control of with the thumb and the finger here. All right, that's kind of how I learned. I'm just showing you that just in case you're looking at my hand going, well, you said this and that. This is why. I can balance it better when I'm running my blade or my knife this way, right? Top, bottom, top, bottom. I can control it better. For me, that works. Again, if I don't swipe that and get a clean edge, if I have a little bit of compound on there, when I go to wipe this, I'm going to leave crap up there. We don't want that. All right. Then we're going to slide it down. I always tell the apprentices or anybody that I'm teaching, the smaller the better, because what we want to do is we always want to get wider. We're trying to feather it out. When I mean feather it out, we cover the edge. So our last coat, we're basically putting it on and taking it off and making it look nice and smooth. If we did our first 2 coats correctly, we have a better chance of being successful. So to show you in a quick way, like if we're really working and now we understand how to hold our tools, you can do this very, very quickly and simply. And that's it. So kind of tied everything together. Any questions? You know, we gave you a good foundation on how things should look. I think if you go and look at this process here, it gives you a good idea of how your wall should look. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to finish up the rest of the taping here. So our entire first coat is complete, and I'll give you a little bit of a taste of or a look on what and how the different techniques and procedures that I've used. I'm going to do a little bit of the slide method, which I haven't shown you. It's a little bit more of an advanced technique. It's a little bit more built for speed. That's kind of how I do it when I'm working. I'll talk a little bit. I want to set you up for success for the next coat. So we're going to add a little bit of compound to the crossbutt. But I think that once we get rolling, you're going to get a pretty good feel of how the process should look to complete your first coat. And again, we're going to put it out there. Anybody has any questions, we're going to be available to answer questions. Actually, that's what I would like to do. I would like to help you any way I can. It's really important to me to have you understand that, you know, don't be nervous to do this. Don't be scared. Yes, it's going to feel a little weird in the beginning, unorthodox, how you hold your tools. But as you move forward and, you know, the repetition and you get used to it, you're going to feel really comfortable doing it. And you're going to be confident that you can take on the next project in your home. You maybe don't have to call in a professional to do it. You can save yourself a little bit of money. You could have some fun doing it and ultimately get the satisfaction of completing something in your home, right? It gives you pride. It's your house. Like, you want it to come out, you know, you want it to come out mint. You want to tell your friends, hey man, I did that. I didn't need, you know, I watched a couple of videos, guy helped me out, but this is fantastic. You know, it's really, really important, especially if it's your first house, you know. And then of course, eventually you'll be able to go into business for yourself, become a drywall finisher, drywall contractor, and you're going to put me out of work, which is what I want. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish up this wall. Like I said, follow the techniques that I showed you. Cross butts first, right? So we got a bottom cross butt. We're going to do the swipe. It's easier to pull up. So we're going to get down there, right? But we want to do our cross butts first. We always want to do our cross butts first. The end of the tape always gets embedded, okay? In that recess. We'll get it in there, right? Again, this is going to get buried with the seam, go down. I'm used to doing it without putting a line in there. I want you to put your knife in there so you can figure out where your seam is. Use your hawk as a third hand. You put it down. You're going to wipe up. You're going to put the compound on there. You're going to wipe up. Compound, wipe up. A little too much to handle. Remember I showed you up here? You can stretch your tape. Take a second. Stretch it. All right? You don't want any wrinkles in there. Good to go. Clean up your sides. Clean your sides up. All right? Again, this is the loose compound. Remember, loose compound. Let me show you, speed things up. Kept mentioning the side technique, what a lot of people like to use. Same thing, compound, and you're going to slide it. You're going to slide it. We're not filling in the recess like I showed you in the beginning. So what we're going to have to do is we're coming back to wipe the tape. We're going to have to press a little bit harder. We may have to add some compound to get that recess filled in there. We don't want blisters, right? Blisters are our enemy. Slide. You go back, right? Look at that. You know where your seam is. Now you can see your seam. What'd I show you? Side, right? Front, back, crease in. Let's lay it in there. Let's go. I told you in the beginning, I have a tendency for my tape to go down. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. Let's get it right on that seam. Pull it. And we cut. Put a little on there. Swipe. Drag. Swipe. Drag. Swipe. And drag. Okay? And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that recess to be filled in nice and clean. It's going to shrink in. And we're going to have a better chance of being successful for our second coat. We're going to see, if I was doing this lightning fast and not talking and just go, you would see every time I would swipe and drag, because you always want a little bit of compound on there. Swipe and drag, right? This is how fast you could do it. Go back in, drag it. I'm hardly pressing. Drag it. We're done. Of course, you're going to get a little bit on that side. That's what happens. You're not going to leave that, though. You're going to go back in there with your knife, and you're just going to take it out. Very simple. Same thing here. Make sure that's clean, and we're good to go. Sealing first. Sealing first. Flatten knife out. If you watch me fast, I'm going to start, and then I'm going to flatten my knife out. Spread that compound out. Okay? Now we're going to come back. Half the knife. Okay? Half the knife. Get right in the corner. Half the knife. Let's get the corner in there. We're going to rip it, if I can rip it. Oh my goodness. I'm having trouble ripping the tape. You're going to have to cut that out. I got to get my knife to rip it. That's never happened. Don't show that part. I don't know. See, it happens. It happens. My fingers are getting weak. That's funny. It's funny. It happens. Listen, just, again, gotta have fun with it, man. Right? Life is tough enough, man. Don't get stressed out over some compound and some tape. It happens. It happens to the best of us. I've come home with globs of compound in my hair, my head, dust. It's part of it. Same thing, though. Look at my knife. I got my fingers. I'm down low on my handle. I'm wiping the bottom first. Why? Because I'm creating that angle. Sealing was done first. The gap is this way. We want to fill that in. Come back. Flatten the knife out. Remember, when you flatten your knife out, you don't pull the compound and tape. You press, but we're pressing outward. Okay? We're pressing outward like this. The angle of the tape. Look at my fingers. Look where my bottom fingers are, on the bottom of the knife. I'm fine with that. When we do the second coat, there's going to be a whole nother technique that I'm going to show you that's going to take care of all of this. Typically, if we are doing this all at once, what I would do is this is a quick advanced technique. I put a little bit of compound in the corner, like that. On the ceiling, I'll go like this. I'll go like this. Fill it in. This way we got some compound in there, and we clean it up. You don't want to leave any globs or anything. You know, it's just more to clean up later on. Is it the end of the world? No. It just makes it a little bit harder to get a smooth, flat wall, okay? Last but not least, this is going to be our cap here. I'm going to do the slide method on here because I'm dying to show you guys that. But it's a little quicker. Same idea, right? Sealing first, slide the compound on. We're going to pull right through the corner bead. I know we should have put the tape in before the corner bead. Don't everybody jump down my throat. Let's come back here. A little bit of compound on half the knife. Compound on half the knife. Compound on half the knife, right? Remember I kept saying repetition, repetition, repetition. Here we go. You're like, wow, it's pretty boring. Oh, a lot of things are boring. If you feel confident, go back a little bit, no pressure, right? Again, what I said earlier, you could fold out a bunch of tape if you'd like. I have no issues with that. I'm going to see if we can cut the tape this time. All right? Why could I do that? We're going to throw it in. I'm a righty, so I like to move to my right. I'm much more comfortable moving to my right. If you're a lefty, there's no hope for you. I don't know what to tell you. No, you'll adapt. Don't worry. Pull it to the end, and there we go. We're able to cut it that time. All right. A little bit of lubrication of the compound. Get that tape wet. A little pressure out there. Again, it's all about how you hold your knife and where your pressure is. We're going to come back this way. We're going to wipe. Look where my fingers are, down low. We're going to put pressure outwards. We did the whole length there. And typically, we like to do all of our tape in one piece if we can. If we can avoid having a break, we try to. Is it the end of the world? No. So in case of where we put a piece of corner and a piece of corner on top of each other, take a little bit of compound in the center of your knife like this. Where you broke the tape, just go in there lightly and put some compound. Same thing on your seams. You can do the same thing. Put some compound on there, clean it up. Try and stay as clean as possible. That's our goal. Flat and smooth and clean. A lot of guys will start, when I showed you earlier, they'll do this too, and then go. And that kind of organically gets you to start sliding. And when I'm teaching, that's how you start. You slide the screws, then you slide your seams, then you slide your corners. So again, it's a progression and it's repetition. So here we dab, you wipe them both. All right, a little bit of dry compound in there. Dab, wipe them both. Let's move over here. Let's keep that same rhythm. Dab, wipe them both. Dab, wipe them both. Dab, wipe them both. Make sure that blade is clean, okay? You can see there's nothing on there. I could run my finger on the opposite side and not get anything on my thumb. That's the key. Keep the blade clean, okay? Moving into the slide method, that's when you start getting a little bit more comfortable holding your tools. And we go like that. And that comes with time, right? I like that. Lastly, we'll do the bottoms. This is where you get your exercise and you bend at the back. Imagine if you're doing a whole house of screws, bottom screws. Nobody wanted to do that. It was like, you're doing bottom screws, but my back hurts. Yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, right? I'm only doing it that way. But there is a method to the madness, and my uncle always taught me when I was doing screws for the very first time. He's like, how many times are you going to bend? Think about this. How many times are you going to bend? Now, you could bend here and start from here and then go up, okay? And then wipe back down and then come back up again. How many bends is that? That's a lot of bending, right? If you're doing a couple of boards, it's not bad. If you're doing a whole house, it takes its toll on you, believe it or not. So I was always taught, start at the top, stand next to it, slide down, one bend, and then up. Go to the next one, slide down, one bend, and then up. Now this is interesting. This is something that you'll run into, and it's kind of funny that we're running into it now. You see how this board was baked? There's indentations in here, okay? That'll show up when you paint. What's our job? Flat and smooth. We got to fill that. Take a moment. Again, swipe and drag. Look at that. You see that? See how that filled in? Swipe and smooth. There you have it. With the crossbutts always give us a challenge, right? Remember I told you in the beginning that we want to be flat and smooth. Here we had added tape on top of this. We can see that it's starting to shrink in. Our first coat is not quite dry yet. So this is how I'm going to show you to help yourself for the second coat, to get this flat and smooth. A lot of folks don't do this. This is something that we just brought into our repertoire when we were doing big jobs. We would all go around at the end of the day and we would float the first coat of the crossbutts. You hear that? We got a little bit of a rocking there. Now, it could be because of the crossbutt, it could be because of the tape. But what we're going to do is, while this compound is still wet, we're going to take our 10-inch knife. We're going to get the compound spread out across the entirety of the knife. We're going to find our high and low side. It looks like this is our lower side. This is our higher side. So we're going to begin the process of floating this out. We're going to come from right here, our cap, and we're going to pull. We're going to keep this side of our knife in the center. So we're floating out this side. Mind you, this is all still wet. Everything's still wet. That's okay. That's what I want. I want this. We're going to smooth this out. I'm going to show you the 10-inch techniques in the second coat process in that next series. But this is just a quick little shortcut to give us an opportunity to make sure that these crossbutts are flat, okay? Again, showing you where to put your fingers, right? I'm cutting the edge. Remember I showed you how to cut the edge on the corner bead? Now we're going to cut the edge here. We're cutting that edge. We're coming to this side. Look at my finger. I drop down on my knife, my finger. We're going to cut this edge. Okay? Lastly, my knife is clean. I'm going to come to the top. And I'm going to flatten my knife out. Notice where my finger is and my finger, both fingers, my index finger. I'm going to flatten that out. And we're going to leave that. We're going to, one more time, flatten it out. Again, emphasizing the fact that my knife is so flat to the wall. And look how low my hand is. That is going to help immensely. And we're hardly putting any pressure on there. I had to stop there, so we want to smooth that out so there's no bumps, and then we'll just go down real quick and we'll float that out. That's a little technique that I teach all of my guys when they come on the jobs. If we have bad crossbutts, we float them on the first coat. We don't wait to the second and third coat. We have to give ourselves an opportunity to help ourselves. And what this does is now it all dries together. Everything dries together. And that's what we want. Just to close everything out. So our YouTube series, hopefully we've explained the first coat and made it as simple and exciting as we possibly could. You know, it's a trade. If you learn it, it's a great trade. If you do it once in a while, it's good to know. It's good to have. I've been talking about doing a YouTube series for a very, very long time. My goal is to really I want to help as many people as I can, get it out there, the right techniques, the right ways to do it. Look, there's many, many ways to skin a cat. I'm sure there's going to be some folks out there who are going to be like, hey, you could do it this way. You could do it that way. You could do it this way. Yes, you can. Can you get away with 2 coats? Yes, you can. You know, this is what works for me. I've done the trial and error. I've made the mistakes, major mistakes, minor mistakes. This is what has worked for me. I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I still do it. I'm still out there in the field every day. I still work every day. I like what I do. I get to meet great people. I get to go in and help people. I get to go in and fix people's homes. And my goal with this YouTube series is to help you fix your home. And to do it with confidence and be successful and not be afraid to do it, to attempt something new. It's not that hard once you know why. And that's important. I know it seems repetitious and I keep saying the same things again and over, but I always told the students and the people that came and worked for me, if you know why, that's going to make you a better mechanic or taper, right? Don't just learn how to do it, because I can teach the repetition over and over again. And yeah, you can do it, but you'll never know why. And I think you got to know why. Why are you doing things? Why do we add water? You know, why are we using heavy compound? Why are we using loose compound? Why do we hold our hand this way? These are the reasons why. Why do we use knives that are 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch? You know, there's a method to the madness. And for me to explain that to you, that's my job. That's my goal. I want to make it as simple as I can for you, give you the best chance of being successful in your home improvement project. And, you know, moving forward, look for us. We're going to continue with the same set. We're going to do the second coat, and we're going to follow it up with a third coat. We're going to have a series that's going to go on. We're going to show you how to fix holes in the walls very efficiently, very quick. We're going to go into different materials, the hard coats, the different compounds, a little bit more. We'll go into maybe a little bit of plaster patching. We're going to do some angles. We're going to do some skim coating. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to encompass into this. Get it all in there so you can have a better grasp and be able to go back and pick and choose the videos that help you in the process while you're in the process. Maybe you're doing a seam or a cross butt in your home and you're having a tough time with it. Hey, let me go back to this video. This guy explained it pretty good. That's my job. That's what I want to do. My name is Kenny. Drywall with Kenny. We look forward to seeing you soon.